This is apparently what it's going to be. Caitlin Clark at the 1, Kelsey Mitchell at the 2, DeWanna Bonner at the 3, Natasha Howard at the 4, and Aaliyah Boston at the 5.
For the Fever to achieve the goals that they have in front of them, everyone is going to need to buy into their role, and it's up to Stephanie White to put the best lineups out there, the best lineup combinations, and all of that. I took a stab at projecting what the starting 5 will be, and it's, not a huge leap.
Really, the Fever just leaks their starting 5.
The rumors hit like a bolt of lightning. The Indiana Fever, a team once overshadowed by flashier rosters, may have just altered the entire balance of the WNBA. A leaked report suggests a starting 5 so potent that rival coaches are already rethinking their strategies. It's a lineup stacked with recent Rookie of the Year winners, experienced veterans on max contracts, and a generational player some are calling the future of the league. While the Fever faithful are buzzing with excitement, the rest of the basketball world is holding its breath, unsure whether this new powerhouse represents the dawn of a fresh dynasty or a fleeting experiment. If the rumors prove accurate, the Fever might emerge as an unstoppable force on a collision course with any team standing in their way. Everything starts with a shocking image that made its rounds on social media, a graphic allegedly exposing Indiana's new core group. At first glance, it seemed too good to be true, a roster that reads like an all-star ballot. The rumor is that we're about to see Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Dana Bonner, Natasha Howard, and Aaliyah Boston sharing the court at the opening tip. Among them are multiple all-stars, the last 2 Rookies of the Year, and 3 players earning top-tier salaries. For a franchise recently considered a work in progress, this is a wild transformation. Clark's presence alone would make headlines. She's often described as a generational shooter and passer, someone who can drop 30 points from practically anywhere on the floor. Mitchell, meanwhile, is a proven sharpshooter with years of professional experience and the ability to create scoring opportunities when tightly guarded. Bonner brings a Swiss Army knife skill set, thriving on both ends of the court with her length and championship background. Howard is a known enforcer, especially on defense and in transition, while Boston's size and paint control make her the perfect post anchor. The prospect of these 5 operating in sync has supporters of rival teams watching nervously. Yet for all the star power, this rumor begs a question. Is it even feasible for 5 players of this caliber to mesh seamlessly? After all, loaded lineups sometimes falter under the weight of their own egos. But every piece of leaked information so far suggests the Fever's chemistry is on the rise, thanks to the franchise's renewed emphasis on team roles and locker room unity. If each player buys in, the rest of the league could be in for a rude awakening. High-performing starting units often dominate headlines, but the real secret to sustained success lies in the bench. In Indiana's case, the story doesn't stop with the rumored 5. Insiders claim the Fever have as many as 9 players fully capable of sliding into a starting spot, depending on matchups and minutes management. That level of depth is virtually unheard of, even in a league featuring contenders like Las Vegas and New York. Consider Sophie Cunningham, a proven competitor who's made her mark with tough defense, fearless shooting, and unwavering energy. Many expected her to fight for a spot among the starting 5. Instead, she has embraced a critical bench role without hesitation or ego. That single decision has turned her into something of a hero among fans who admire unselfishness. Then there's Lexi Hull, who led the entire WNBA in three-point percentage last season, providing a spark whenever the offense stalls. Add the paint presence of Brianna Turner, the veteran savvy of Sydney Carlson, and the possibility of more mid-season moves, and you have a bench that can produce starter-level impact. People close to the Fever's coaching staff insist that lineups will remain fluid throughout the year. When you've got 9 or 10 reliable players, changing matchups suddenly becomes a chess game instead of a rigid pattern. Teams forced to prepare for a variety of lineups could find themselves overwhelmed by constant adjustments. That advantage alone might swing close games in the Fever's favor, turning them from an emerging threat into a genuine title contender. When you take 5 potential all-stars and put them on one team, the risk of clashing personalities is high. Yet early reports point to a unique culture that coach Stephanie White has deliberately fostered, one that centers on selflessness, communication, and communal goals rather than raw statistics. Observers say the coaching staff has hammered home the idea that each player's talents multiply in a structured, yet free-flowing environment. Caitlin Clark, widely hailed for her deep shooting range, has been given a green light to let it fly whenever she sees daylight. That said, she's no one-trick pony. Her court vision, reminiscent of the best passers in basketball, sets up Kelsey Mitchell for open jumpers and punishes defenses that cheat off the perimeter. Meanwhile, Dana Bonner thrives when she can exploit mismatches. Taller than the average wing and too agile for the average forward, she plays a positionless style that leaves defenders unsure whether to guard her in the paint or chase her outside. Natasha Howard and Aaliyah Boston round out the 5 with a devastating inside-outside dynamic. Howard's instincts on defense anchor the team's rotations, while Boston's advanced footwork carves out space in the paint. Let defenders double-team Clark or Mitchell up top, and Boston punishes you underneath. Collapse into the paint to contain her, and suddenly you're leaving multiple sharpshooters wide open behind the arc. The synergy is what makes this unit frightening. Each player enhances the others, forming an offensive and defensive puzzle that leaves opponents scrambling for answers. By all accounts, the Clark-Boston duo has the potential to define a new era in women's basketball. Much like iconic guard-center pairings throughout history, they complement each other's strengths. Boston commands so much respect in the post that defenders often abandon perimeter matchups to contain her. Clark, meanwhile, sees angles and openings nobody else does, rifling the ball into tight windows for easy buckets. Anytime Boston flashes to set a screen, defenses hesitate. Do they hedge out on Clark, who can bury a three from the logo, or do they drop back to contain Boston's lethal rolls to the rim? That split second of indecision is often all Clark needs to pull up, dish a pass, or flip the ball to a cutting teammate. Long-term watchers of the league argue these two could develop into one of the best inside-out combos ever, eventually earning comparisons to legendary pairs who left their mark on the game. The early verdict from coach Stephanie White? She's already calling Clark and Boston a future all-time partnership. She's confident their skill sets, and more importantly, their mentalities, line up perfectly for an extended run. Each respects the other's gifts, and each appears willing to do the little things that lead to success. In a league where pride and conflict can derail even the most talented squads, that kind of mutual admiration is vital. Championship teams aren't just about 5 players. They're about an environment where everyone believes in a shared goal. Sophie Cunningham is the emblem of that mindset in Indiana. She arrived with a proven track record, the kind of competitor who could start on many teams. Yet when the Fever's front office signaled she'd be coming off the bench, Cunningham didn't sulk, didn't demand more playing time, she embraced it. This choice might sound small, but in the world of professional sports, it's often a turning point. Players with big reputations sometimes balk at reduced roles. History is filled with stars who parted ways with their teams after being asked to come off the bench. But Cunningham's willingness to adapt and support the talents around her says a lot about the Fever's current atmosphere. If a veteran with multiple skill sets is this excited to be a 6th woman, it sends a message to everyone else on the roster: your role matters, but the team matters more. Coaches and teammates have praised her leadership and sense of humor. Her energy in practice rubs off on younger players, while her focus in games keeps everyone locked in. The intangible benefits are obvious. A player who can step into any lineup configuration, small ball, perimeter-oriented sets, or standard half-court offense and produce. For a team gunning for a title, that kind of versatility off the bench is pure gold. Behind the glamour of the star-studded starting lineup, the Fever bench has become one of the most talked-about second units in the league. Lexi Hull, who stealthily led the WNBA in three-point percentage, is no longer forced to guard bigger and stronger forwards for extended stretches. With deeper frontcourt support, Hull can expend her energy wisely, pressing full court or harassing perimeter scorers while still keeping her legs fresh for deep-range sniping. Brianna Turner, another name gathering buzz, might not score 20 points nightly, but her defensive acumen and ability to finish around the rim are precisely the components that complement top-tier playmakers. Turner sets solid screens, boxing out effectively so cutters have an open lane, and can collapse defenses simply by occupying the paint at the right time. Then there's Sydney Carlson, the veteran presence who knows how to run an offense and calm things down when chaos looms. With Carlson, Clark can rest or even play off-ball, focusing on shooting while Carlson orchestrates the half-court sets. What's truly special is the bench's continuity with the starters. The strategy doesn't break down when substitutions occur. The same fast-paced, read-and-react offense applies across the board, meaning opponents get no reprieve. Some teams rely on an 8-person rotation and hope to survive the non-star minutes. This Fever roster might legitimately play 10 deep, wearing down opposing defenses and punishing backups who can't maintain the necessary intensity for 4 quarters. A pivotal factor in making this all work is Stephanie White's coaching philosophy. Rather than micromanaging every possession with rigid set plays, she encourages players to embrace their instincts. The phrase that keeps coming up is, "We want to make plays, not run plays." In other words, the system is built on spacing principles and situational reads. Depending on who's on the floor, which matchups can be exploited, and how defenders react, the players themselves decide the next move. Of course, White isn't just throwing the ball out there without a plan. There are specific sets to open space and highlight certain talents. If Clark is sharing the court with multiple shooters, you might see a 5-out alignment that forces defenders to guard the entire perimeter. If the staff notices an opponent struggling to contain post-ups, they'll deploy pick-and-roll combos with Boston or use Howard's quickness to dive to the rim. The beauty is the flexibility. Each pass can trigger multiple possible sequences, leaving defenders guessing. This offense takes a page from the Golden State Warriors' success with Steph Curry. Instead of letting Clark remain static at the top of the key, White wants her in constant motion. Once Clark offloads the ball, she sprints through screens, cuts back door, and repositions for relocation threes. Defenders chasing her face an uphill battle, forced to run non-stop just to keep up with an elite sniper. If they lose track of her for even a second, Clark can make them pay from 30 feet or beyond. A lingering mystery hovers over the Fever's recent decisions, the unexpected absence of Tammy Fagbenle from the protected list. Anyone following off-season workouts saw images of Tammy putting in time with Coach White. It seemed all but certain she'd remain a key part of the frontcourt, especially given her success running the floor and defending the paint last season. Yet when it came time to protect players in the expansion draft, Indiana elected to shield Dyrus Dantas instead, leaving Fagbenle exposed. On the surface, this choice looks puzzling. Fagbenle offered a strong defensive presence and had begun forming a connection with Clark. She's also shown she can run in transition, an ideal partner for a guard who loves throwing pinpoint lobs and full-court passes. Why cast aside someone who appear to be in the coach's plans? Digging deeper, it's possible the Fever are thinking multiple steps ahead. Dantas brings a set of complementary skills, including spacing and mid-range shooting that might fit the new read-and-react system better. Alternatively, the front office may be contemplating a future trade or free agent signing. Perhaps they evaluated potential expansion scenarios and decided the best roster balance required a slightly different skill set. In any case, the decision underscores that nothing is set in stone, even on a squad with this much talent. Future moves could add yet another twist to an already fascinating offseason. Static, predictable lineups are easy to scout. Dynamic ones are much tougher. And in the WNBA, where rosters are relatively small, being able to adapt on the fly is critical. By amassing a deep, flexible group, the Fever have granted themselves a level of strategic freedom few teams can match. Coach White can tailor her starting five based on the opponent, the pace of the game, or even a hot hand off the bench. Imagine a scenario where the Fever want to outmuscle a smaller opponent. They can slide in Bonner at the 3, Howard at the 4, and Boston at the 5, forming a towering front line. If they need more speed or shooting, Cunningham can step in, or they can pair Clark and Carlson in a two-guard set that turns games into track meets. Even though the rumored Super 5 might be Plan A, the bench is armed with Plan B, Plan C, and Plan D. Defending the Fever becomes a nightmare. Sending double teams at Clark is suicide when Mitchell is on the wing and Boston lurks inside. Trying to go small against Howard and Bonner could lead to a feast in the paint. Switching everything on pick and rolls doesn't always work either, since Clark has the savvy to exploit mismatches and find open shooters in the corner. Every technique opponents use eventually hits a dead end, and that's exactly what White is counting on. No team is without an element of surprise. Sometimes, a player emerges from relative obscurity and becomes an X factor in big moments. For Indiana, that could be Lexi Hull draining clutch corner threes, or Brianna Turner collecting offensive rebounds that turn the tide of a crucial playoff game. It could even be someone not yet on the roster, an undrafted gem who shines in training camp, earning a contract and becoming a feel-good story. Wildcards inject that burst of unpredictability that every champion needs. They can also throw a wrench into the best-laid plans of opposing coaches. After all, you can scout Clark or Mitchell all you want, but how do you prepare for a role player who randomly catches fire from mid-range or who locks down your best scorer for a 5-minute stretch? That's the intangible advantage of building a team culture where everyone is empowered to contribute. From unheralded bottom dwellers to a rumored supercharged contender, the Indiana Fever embody everything fans crave: dramatic twists, bold moves, and the promise of jaw-dropping highlights. The story started with a leaked image that set social media ablaze, hinting at a lethal starting five. Yet the real intrigue lies in how the entire roster, from established veterans to rising newcomers, has coalesced into a unit determined to reach the mountaintop. So what do you think? Are the Fever about to take over? Or is all of this just a tempting illusion? Sound off with your thoughts, join the conversation, and stay tuned for more updates. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we'll be covering every twist in this ever-evolving saga. The WNBA might never be the same again.